Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. This is going to be an important one. I want to take a look at the, here daily chart, short-term chart, ETHBTC and Bitcoin dominance. So stay tuned till the end for all of these updates. I think very important is to get an understanding of ETHBTC, and we also, need to figure out where we are on the Bitcoin dominance chart to understand if Bitcoin is still leading, with the current correction. Obviously, what you can see today is Bitcoin going down a bit. Some altcoins are actually already recovering, even though that's not strong enough yet to really be a signal. But we want to talk about that today here in this video. Looking at the daily chart first, obviously, from the daily chart point of view, no change. We are still in the range. We have seen a dip into the July lows, into this orange support region to the 5th of July. Then we've seen a rally from there in 5 waves, very important, in 5 waves. This is different to what we had between the 2nd of May and the 7th of June. This structure had problems. You might recall me say that this structure is problematic to the upside. It was not a clear 5-wave move. This here is a pretty clean 5-wave move up. Best and most bullish price action since the March top, really. And does it mean we have to break out? No, it doesn't mean we have to, but it allows us to observe very clear parameters, and we actually have a setup, okay, which we didn't really have here. There were levels we were watching, but it was not a 5-wave move up that gave us confidence. This here gives some confidence, which also means we shouldn't ignore risk management, right? Because support can still break. So it's not like, okay, we have to break out to the upside. But I can say it's the most bullish and promising price action we've seen in a long time. And we have seen 5 waves up. It is clear that some kind of a pullback is emerging right now. Now that could be that this wave 2 is now unfolding on the daily chart. Actually, on the smaller time frame chart, I also have a more accelerated bullish scenario listed. This is simply the daily chart that gives you the key levels and the main support areas. Here, support is defined between 56,700, 56,800 and 63,220. And we also have this support area on the smaller time frame. And it is the main box that we're now observing. Below 56,700, I might get more bearish. But as long as we're holding support here, there is nothing bearish about this chart. So let's also remind ourselves where the movement could get to. Because if we get this pullback done, if we hold support in the coming weeks, maybe it's months, maybe it's weeks, probably maybe a couple of months or so, we could see the price get to 90 to 100K in this 5th wave to the upside. Because if this is wave 1 up, and we get a wave 2, and sometimes these are shallow, sometimes they're a little bit deeper. But if we're forming a higher low above the 5th of July low, then the next surge should take us into the 90K region in waves 3 and 5. And this could be one of the last rallies of the bull run before we might then enter a very, very long correction again in wave 4, which would be similar to this one. And it is a wave 4, just the larger wave degree. I'm always warning when we're entering a wave 4, it could be a substantial correction or take time, that's what they do. So very important to understand this. And now let's take a look at the smaller time frame chart for Bitcoin. This is the idea. We have a 5-wave move up, 1 wave count, and this is what I just showed you on the daily chart. 1 wave count allows for an interpretation of a full 5-wave move up into the Monday high. And then we are now in the wave 2 correction that would send us into that lower support region. Levels might be slightly different here. That's just because I can draw it a little bit more accurately on the 1-hour chart. But 50 euros different, or $50 different. It doesn't make a difference really in crypto. So 56.8K down here. That's the key support level now of this substantial support zone in yellow wave 2. This is the deeper pullback. We have 1 count here where we're looking for a deeper pullback in wave 2. This could have started after a 5-wave rally topped at the resistance line at 72K. It is clear that if this is the case, we would like to see the price get at least to 63,290, maybe a little bit lower. So at least to the 38.2 fib level, And it could be an A wave, Then I'm watching for a B wave and maybe wave C to the downside. Maybe that B wave has started. In my last video yesterday, I highlighted, no, it wasn't the last video, it was a signal I sent out. We might be up for a bounce because we were oversold on the 1 hour chart. That bounce might be starting. We were oversold, yeah, on the 1 hour chart. So far, we've seen a bit of a bounce actually from there, okay? So yeah, it might be that B wave. And that was the idea. We're oversold on the 1 hour. A bounce is due. Maybe it's the B wave. Sometimes they are weak, but we have a standard resistance area to watch. This is only standard resistance. B waves sometimes break above it, but 68,000 to 69,228. And from there, one more low in wave C would be ideal. Yeah, and then we can, once we have the B wave top complete, we can calculate a target for wave C to the downside. Important here is just that as long as we're holding the box, there's nothing bearish. There is an accelerated bullish count, which is this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In wave 1, where the top was already the 22nd of July. Wave 2 was shallow. And this is another 1-2 setup. And then we should also go higher, but without any deep pullbacks. So that means, in other words, for this more accelerated bullish count to be preferred, we need to see minimally a break above yesterday's high at around 72K. Not 72K, 70K, yeah? And then if we get a break above 72,185 as well, it would increase probabilities for the white count. Important is to understand, in both counts, we expect the price to get to 90 to 100K. In the next larger rally to the upside, when do I have to change my perspective? Below 56,775 pretty much. So below the yellow box. Until we break below the yellow support zone, there's not really anything clearly bearish. I did post an update like this as well. It's very clearly described yesterday on Twitter. So make sure you follow us here as well. You'll find the link in the description. Just make sure you only follow the correct account. But if that was all too much for you, you might wanna check it out on Twitter. You can find it somewhere here. It was described here in detail, you know, what the two scenarios are. Let's say the bullish one and the accelerated bullish one with the relevant levels. And just bear in mind, the levels are always adjusted on the smaller time frame to account for latest price action. So now let's take a quick look at Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance still pushing, but basically still, yeah, in this ascending wedge pattern, in a resistance area, and we haven't broken down yet. The downtrend hasn't started. It's just consolidation on a high level. If Bitcoin dominance goes down, it could spark, maybe a little bit of an altcoin season. And so far, the movement isn't changing, however. You know, the trend isn't changing. It's still up, you could say. Well, in this wedge, we're just moving sideways. Soon we are going to, I think, test this lower trend line again. But yeah, it takes ages. You know, it's pretty much not done much since April. And just going up and down a bit in a range. Hasn't made a new high yet, but could very well also test the upper trend line before really any significant movements are expected. So altcoins not leading yet. Okay, Bitcoin's still leading. Bitcoin's still on a high level. I think they hold the balance now. They hold themselves. I mean, maybe this is sort of a trend reversal area, but you know, trend reversals are always like a story that unfolds. It's not like, oh, we have a top and we go down. Usually, it's a bit of a process how a top is forming. So all we can do is observe at the moment. No, the trend hasn't changed yet, but I think, you know, we're at a pretty high level now. Approach this descending trend line. We're in a wedge pattern which should break to the downside eventually. So yeah, I'm looking at downside, but we have no signal it started yet. Now let's take a look at ETHBTC. This is all about, okay, which of these coins is outperforming? Is Bitcoin still leading or Ethereum? Well, if we zoom out, the trend is clearly still down, which means Bitcoin is still outperforming ETH. In the very, very short term, there was a setup we've been observing where we have a 1-2 setup or an A-B structure from where ETH could start to outperform Bitcoin. We're holding support. It is just something to observe. It's not something I want to predict that ETH is going to do that because ETH needs to prove itself. If, however, we get a break above the B wave top at 0.056, I would assume that ETH might be starting to outperform Bitcoin for the rest of the cycle. And at least we could then get a larger ABC rally, which could be quite significant. Maybe even test here the previous highs from September 22. So, but below 0.047, this will become far less likely. That's the update about Bitcoin. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Also, make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.